Welcome, welcome. It's Wednesday once again, and it's time to woo-hoo. Use that stress management technique to take the focus away from all the problems that we need to solve and put it on noticing what's going well. What are our successes? And today, we're going to talk about celebrating the effort and the attempt. So let me share with you, though, that it is the dark times here in the Green household. Our sailboat is out of the water, so we don't have that going on. Wisconsin Badger Volleyball, the national champion, Wisconsin Volleyball, is done. Also taking away our joy there. So it is also negative 6 degrees today. So sometimes I have to look a little hard to find those things to celebrate. But guess what? This week, this article shows up in my feed. What the workplace can learn from the Wisconsin women's volleyball team. Yes, please. Always love to see our beloved Badgers in the media, along with an article by Tim Hagen here that talks about the kind of culture that Coach Kelly Sheffield has put together. And these are things that my husband Clay and I noticed as we really enjoyed the whole season this year and the seasons in the past. One of the things that Tim talks about in this article, but we really have noticed, is it is often hard to tell from the team whether they lost or won the point. And in volleyball, every touch counts. You can't have a good attack if you didn't have a good serve-receive pass and a good set. So every single touch counts and everybody's working together on the team. But then the point happens, and if you're far away and have relatively poor distance eyesight like I do, sometimes it's hard to tell who won that point. Was that ball in? Was that ball out? And it's hard to tell from the players because they gather together in the center of the court, high-five, encourage each other, whether they won the point or not. You have to wait for the count to come up on the scoreboard. And you see the same sort of thing on the sideline from the coaches, particularly Kelly Sheffield, the head coach, where it doesn't matter if that player had a great round or that player was struggling a little bit. It's still encouragement. You never see him yell. And what Tim says in this article is, what if the workplace had all of those things? What if the boss didn't yell? What if there was high fives from your teammates all of the time, whether you're winning or losing? And it reminded me of this quote I heard from Kelly Sheffield quite a while ago. If we aren't winning, we're learning. And especially in this season, without the games that were lost, without Maryland and Purdue, without the teams that played the Badgers really hard, Nebraska and Minnesota, the team's not prepared to go to the national championship. All of those hard-fought games were learning experiences. So it's an interesting idea about what does it really mean to create a culture that celebrates effort and attempt and not just success. It's really, really interesting. It also reminded me of something. I just read this book by Sam Silverstein, No Matter What, and it's about accountability and leadership. And one of the concepts in here is embracing failure. And the piece that really struck me is exactly this. How do you celebrate effort and attempt and allow for failure to happen and learning from that failure to happen? So I am woohooing this little epiphany for me about it's not just woohooing those successes, it's woohooing the attempts and the effort. So I ask you, no matter where you're watching right now, pop into the comments, let me know you're here, and what are you woohooing this Wednesday? Is it something that was a success, a small victory, or was it the attempt or the effort in order to do that? As I said, it is 6 below here. Getting out of bed this morning was a little bit of effort. Woohoo! So what are you celebrating? Pop a comment and I'd love to see what you're celebrating this week. But going back to what Sam said about the embracing the failure and celebrating the effort and the attempt, one of the points he makes here is that you have to celebrate in the way the other person would like to be celebrated. Not everybody wants to be congratulated and slapped on the back in front of everybody. Some people just need that kind word that I see what you're doing and I appreciate it quietly in their ear. And I see this from the coaching staff of the Badger Volleyball team. Not everybody, there's a consistency, but you see that everybody has encouragement the way they need that encouragement. So you think about, what would that look like if we brought that in to our lives? It reminds me of parenting, which is sometimes a struggle. And this idea of celebrating the attempt and the effort really works here. I have a saying that I use a lot, and I used it a lot when our girls were younger. I can have help or I can have it my way. And I will admit to a certain level of control freak. I like things my own way, but as a parent, your responsibility is to teach your kids how to do things. And they are not going to be perfect on their first attempt or their second or their third or 16th or whatever, how long it takes for the water to wear down the rock to the point where they got it. But if you're constantly telling them they're doing it wrong, the motivation goes away. So how can you celebrate the attempt and the effort? I wish I would have been a little better at that as a parent. I'm going to woohoo that, our girls are adults and great people. I think I could have given them a little more grace along the way. And when you think about that in your relationships and in your workplace, how do you allow people to contribute and to help, but also accept that it's not going to be exactly the way you wanted it, especially it's not going to be exactly how you wanted it the first time or the second time or the third time. So that's celebrating the effort, like, thank you, I appreciate you doing that. How did you think it went? What could we do differently to make that more successful? So that's some of what Sam says in No Matter What, and I really appreciated particularly that point. Some of the other ways that this made me think, I think for ourselves, celebrating our effort and our attempt, like I talked about, just getting out of bed sometimes is worth that woohoo. But rather than waiting until we finish, we absolutely hit the mark, whether that's something that's a fitness goal or another type of personal goal. If you wait to celebrate until that's complete, it's easy to lose motivation to do it. But if you're celebrating the effort and the attempts along the way, that makes it more possible for you to keep that motivation going. And again, no matter where you're watching right now, I'd love to hear your thoughts on, what is this bringing up for you? What kind of effort or attempt could you celebrate more intentionally over the next week? There's also this idea of creating a culture that is full of encouragement and it allows learning from failure. One of the groups I have had the privilege to work with over the last couple of months is Exploration Ground Systems at NASA Kennedy Space Center. And NASA as a whole, have really put in place a culture of learning from failure and listening to all voices. It's intentional. It is replicable by people across the spectrum. And there is actually an entire program, the Apollo Challenger Columbia Lessons Learned program, that is dedicated to really remembering what has happened in the past and learning those lessons. So thinking about what would it take to create a culture where people can feel comfortable enough, encouraged enough to try big things and then learn from the attempts that are maybe not completely successful. If you're constantly worried about somebody berating you for not doing it right, it is very hard to have the bravery to step forward and try something new. I think the key is like Kelly Sheffield, making that culture where team members high-five each other, win or lose, where there are smiles and real commitment to each other and the team. And that where, as they need it, as they want it, there is encouragement and appreciation of the successes for sure, but also the effort and the attempt and the learning. So that's what I'm taking away this week. I hope that you are taking something away to help you along your path to feeling better and stressing less. Here's my thought. Think very intentionally over the next week about what are you noticing in terms of effort and attempts for yourself, and efforts and attempts in the people around you. Appreciate them, encourage them, notice them, woo-hoo them, and I'll meet you back here next Wednesday as we celebrate every Wednesday, woo-hoos, celebrating the successes, the attempts, and the effort. You can find all of our episodes at woohoowednesday.com. You can also find us live on Facebook on Wednesdays at woohoowednesday.live, on YouTube, woohoowednesday.video, and of course we're on LinkedIn as well. I wish you low stress and great success. Woohoo! Have a great week!